a list control and get information about a list control. You can just type into the search function, and in all the different topics, it'll start reducing and minimizing and showing the different types of items that have particular that. So if I want some information on, say, a grid, I can start typing grid, and you'll start seeing here like the different grid capabilities. And you'll notice as I click on an item, it actually opens up that help function or help information within my right panel as tabbed panels. And this is kind of handy because what you'll find is that you often tend to go back and look at the specific helpings a few times before it gets solidly inside your brain. So for instance, here's create a grid component with a tutorial. And then I also have information like, for instance, embedded linked grids. Some of this is a little older. You know, you have information from V9, V10, etc., and some of it's still available. And often other ones, though, is like filtering a grid with a button that is useful today. So it's a mishmash. And as you notice, as I clicked on each item, up here at the top, we had different tabs open up. So if I want to go back and review one that I just looked at, I just have to click on the tab and that information is still available, and I can close that out as needed. So what's nice is you can kind of keep that list of often reviewed items available right there on the top, pop right between the two, and have them. And this is all built into the system. You have both a topic list where basically every article is listed by a topic, but you also have a table of contents section. So for instance, in the tutorial section, you can see we have different tutorials. And so let me remove my filter here, and you'll notice now that I have a whole series of help capabilities built into it. So a whole series of tutorials, a whole series of how-to auto increment fields work, how to add users to groups and security. So it covers the whole breadth of Alpha's capabilities, and it's all built into the system. Very easy to do. And you can play with this, you can add your own notes, you can favorite different items, etc. And this is continually refreshed into the system over time. Now, this is nice because it's really right there built into the system. And I'll talk a little bit more where all this is now going to be moving over onto the web, because sometimes it's just quicker to have a web browser open and search for the same content. But very important, and the key thing I want to get across is that built into the Alpha development system is all of our help content, including tutorials, user guides, examples, quick tutorials or quick snippets of code on what to do, all those pieces from there. And all you have to do is go to the help, open documentation, and that will open up that right within the system. Also from a help standpoint is we have what's new in this release. So as you go ahead and start updating and bringing on new releases, you can click on that, and in a few moments it's going to open up a web page and take you right to the release notes for, in this case, version 12. And so this has kind of more the newer stuff, and as the releases go out, it has examples of videos and code samples you can see on here, and background and information there. And that's all accessible from within the system. So pretty easy. All you have to do is go to the help menu and then the what's new in this release. Okay, so that's your basic documentation within the system. But also built into it is a whole set of videos. And so let me go ahead and show you how those work, because sometimes videos are easier to consume information than, say, some written documentation. So if I go again into the development environment and I go to Help, Video Finder, you'll notice that within the environment it opens up somewhat similar to the documentation, but basically a built-in list of all the different videos that are available across all of the different releases. And which is really nice up here in this filter is I can type in, let's say I want to do it about grids. If I could spell that, would be nice. And you'll notice that it's searched for any videos that are associated with grids, and more importantly is that it still maintains its hierarchy. You can say, oh, these are information about reports that are related to grids. Here are desktop applications that use grids. Here's a UX component that maybe has an embedded grid into it. So it maintains that structure so you can kind of get the relationship, because often you're trying to do something with a grid or a list or some element there. And you'll see that as I click on this, let's say this right here, you'll notice that now we have a calendar. We can talk about the grid and the calendar component, you know, in terms of how they're related there. Or we can go to a, let's say, geographical mapping kind of searches, how to do that with a grid. And you'll see there's a video here. And all you have to do is click on the video, and that will open up into your browser the video from online, and then you can watch it there. And nice enough is you can go back in and say, oh, I also want to see this video, and open that up. And then each of these will have their own, you know, they're opened up in a different video from that standpoint here. So what I like about this a lot is that, again, I tend to like to learn from videos, so I can quickly go in, and it usually gives me enough information to solve the issue, the problem, the item that I would like to get done. And again, all we have to do is you go to the Help Video Finder, then you type whatever your topic is in here, and then it will automatically filter both in the left-hand side and over here in terms of that. So this is all the search results. You'll notice there's all search results. This is 227 different entries of different videos that are available talking about all the different pieces there. But then you'll notice it also, which is nicely, if there are related information, let's say, you know, reports and grids, you'll see that it's built into it. Notice it's using a free text search here to relate those. So that's often really, really helpful from that standpoint. And again, all referenceable, all accessible from within the development environment, as you can see from there. So that's covered both the help system and there, but also I want to mention the message board, and this is not to be neglected. The message board is an incredible wealth of information, both historically but also currently. And if you go back into the development environment, there's actually a handy little link built into the development environment, so you don't have to go find all those different, you know, go search for it from that standpoint. Is that basically within the development environment, you go to the Help menu, and then you select Message Board, and that will again open up a web browser window that takes you right to the message board. And this is a very active message board. Literally every day new things are posted. This is a great way to search for historical questions. I've found many solutions by going in and searching on this and actually having it someone on the message board that's actually resolved it, and I can take that and run with it. But also you can join the message board and post to it, and we have again a very dynamic community that will go into the message board and help answer those questions and help people out as part of there. And you'll notice the message board is nicely defined. So for instance, for older version 10, 11, you know, 9, 10, 11, here's those message boards. But also you'll notice we have tablet optimized form capabilities. So for all the new stuff that's coming out this year, there's actually betas in place, and there's a lot of questions being answered there and feedback being given. But also you can look at the most current, which is web and mobile, or mobile and browser applications, to see the most recent items there. And desktop, there's still an active community doing desktop applications, and there's a lot of support that's available. And if you click into an area, you can see that here are the different topics. For instance, this person's getting a slow UX component. And you'll notice that there's a lot of replies, like 5 replies for this slow UX component. For this web security user UX, there's 11 and lots of views. And again, this is all searchable within the system by just going up here to this little piece right there and typing in grid, let's say color or something like that, and it will do a search. Oh, it wants me to log in there. If you don't have, there's no charge for it. You can log in for free, and it will take you right into it, and then you can search and sort. And actually, I found sometimes people will attach example code, they'll attach pictures, they'll attach things to download. You have to be kind of a member of the board to be able to download. But again, no charge. All you have to do is register using the register button up here in the right-hand corner. And don't neglect it. It's a very vibrant, very valid community, and what we see is that a lot of really good information is on there that you may not find in either the videos and or within the built-in help system within here. You'd be surprised, a lot of, just questions, how to approach a problem, how to, how to do something very particular for a particular situation. But I find those usually give me enough information to then go solve the core problem that I've been running with and to get the help that I needed. So we've covered the development help system, the development video system, and the Alpha message board. The last thing I'm going to cover two other things real quick. We also have coming online a new and improved help site. And we don't have a demonstration. I think Dave had done a demonstration a month and a half ago or so. But this is coming online, and this is going to be very, very powerful. What this is going to do is consolidate an enormous amount of information into one spot. One thing about Alpha is that there's tons of information on tons of different sites, because over the years, because of its long and storied history, people have created different sites to do stuff and this and that. And so what's going on is part of the process is not only launching a new, better way to gain help, but also within that is to consolidate and bring forward all the information about the product, the information on the wiki, the white papers, all the videos we have, all this content that's out there. And as part of that process too is kind of reviewing it to see if it's relevant anymore. There is certain content that is kind of obsolete, meaning it still works that way, but there's much simpler ways to do things now than there used to before. And that's very important too, is because we don't want people wasting their time on methodologies that really don't make sense given the much better and much improved tools that essentially the evolution of the Alpha solution. I mean, I look at certain things that I did that took, multiple steps and multiple pieces, now are done with a single command because there was enough desire and need. So that's the first step, is that Dave is leading this effort, and he's taking the team and he's consolidating the product, the wiki, and the white papers and all this content. And the other, which is very important, is it's going to use what's called Elasticsearch, sort of a Google-like search engine capability to quickly find pages. So you'll be able to use a much improved and simplified search capability to find information within the wiki. And this will all be web-based, so it will be real-time. As Alpha continually updates and improves and releases new content for help, it's going to be added on there. So what's interesting about this, and again, we're going to plan a demo on this fairly soon when it's ready for release, but it's going to be divided into books. So instead of just having one monolithic kind of help system, it's going to be divided into what are called books or areas. First is just introduction. That's going to be for like new people coming on with Alpha. Then we're going to have guides and how-tos. These are really focused on, often I like to call them design patterns of how people approach and do stuff. So we're going to be having these guides and how-tos all consolidated into one place. So it's easier, especially for new people, to go and find the best practices, the design patterns to use to implement what they want to. Then there's going to be a section that's going to be focused on server side. So it's really going to be on the server side, XBasic and Node.js and pieces there. And then we'll have an area that's going to be focused on the client side, which is going to be more JavaScript and Action JavaScript and what you do actually on the client side of the world. And then last but not least is we're not precluding, we're actually still including a desktop reference, which is going to be focused on people who are still generating desktop applications, which again, we have a very vibrant community that's out there generating desktop applications. So that we're going to divide these into the different books, but what's nice is that Elasticsearch is going to tie all these pieces together so that you'll be able to search across all this content to glean those key pieces of information to help you solve the items there. There's going to be actually a built-in feedback system to let us know what the quality of the content is. So for instance, if there is something that's missing that should be in there, you can report it. Within there, there will be a built-in feedback system where we can track that. And also, if there's information that may not make sense or could be written better or maybe needs some more elaboration, we're going to have that feedback system built into it. So a lot of work is going around this to make sure that not only do we make it easy for people to find stuff, but also as they find it and as we're monitoring it so that we'll know if we're doing a good job of providing that help to the outside field. And so that's coming down the road. It's not too far away, and Dave's working furiously on that. And we'll have more updates over the next few sessions. Keep you posted, and as soon as it's available for demonstration, we're going to be bringing it in and doing a demonstration for the team. But we're very excited about that because, again, lots and lots of content out there for Alpha. The organization has been somewhat lacking in the past. I mean, there's been attempts, but it changes so much over time that it's hard to maintain that. But this will now give us a central point for help that will allow us to have a really good system to help people out from that standpoint there. The other thing I like to mention is also Alpha Professional Services. Alpha offers professional services. These include mentoring and project support. So if someone just needs some extra help, some one-on-one I've got these very specific questions related to this project and I need someone to look over my shoulder, Alpha has those services available. And also, if there's something more, like you get into a project and you realize it's a little bigger than you had anticipated, and you need a team to help you get you over the hump or get closure or help you develop the first generation, whatever happens to me, Alpha also has that available. So don't forget that in case you ever need that. That's there because we always want to see people achieve the results, whether using the built-in help, the new help facilities, or getting a little more personal help from Alpha Professional Services. And then, so remember, there's a built-in help system. You access that through the help menu. Let me show you that again real quick. If I go right here to help, you'll see we have our open documentation, what's new in this release, video finder, and also getting started videos, which are handy there. There's somewhat of a duplication, but these are for more new ones. Then we have message boards. You can actually send in bug reports right within the system, and also within the help system we have for checking new versions, seeing the release notes, downloading the latest patches. So that help menu is really critical because it's that primary place that you can pointer to all the different facilities. And obviously once we have the new help system online, you'll see one of the key things that's going to happen is a new item on this menu will come up that will be your pointer to that, which will consolidate a lot of this capability and a lot of this content into a single spot. And always the message board, very powerful, very great way to both search for existing solutions but ask people for help on new and other solutions there. We have the new and improved help site on, and again, Alpha Professional Services that are available to people when and if they need it to help them. So I hope this gives you a quick and dirty overview of the different help facilities that are available. And I think you'll find that, when you dive into it, often the question has already been asked because of the long history of Alpha, especially on existing things like grids and lists and other things that have been out in the market for a while and have been, on multiple projects, etc. It's a moving target because as Alpha adds new features and capabilities, we'll be introducing new help capabilities. One thing we're very excited about the new Elasticsearch new help site is that part of the process is as new features come on, we're going to immediately integrate that feature initial tutorials and documentation and everything else into that one single spot so you can quickly go and know where to go to get that information about all new and improved capabilities from that standpoint there. So with that, that's a quick and dirty overview of the help environment. I'm checking in on my questions and tisk, I don't see any questions pending. So if you have specific questions, oh great, excellent, I just got a question, so we'll check that one first. But again, take the moment, go to Webinar Control Panel. On there is a question area. Just type your question in there, we'll review them. Again, if we can't answer them today, we always take them down and get them back to you. Also, really important too is remember, you can always send emails to guides@alphasoftware.com, guides@alphasoftware.com, and those emails we review religiously and we really focus on them, and those questions often drive our webinar content. In fact, we can try and answer it specifically, or we can do a whole webinar around a specific subject to really give people what they want. So go ahead and, I'm going to go ahead and look at the first one here.
Also
the
a reminder,
answer is yes. Oh yes, please Chris, go ahead.
Also a reminder that the reason I was a little late in seeing that the screen wasn't up was because I was looking for the recording button, that we are recording this session. I missed a little at the beginning, but I think we can fill that in later on.
Yeah, I'll probably go back in and edit the beginning part because I was screwing it up myself. So thank you very much for doing that. Wow, I almost appreciate that, Chris. So that's
I,
why Chris gets the big bucks.
I just hope I'm recording the correct screen because I have 4 screens in front of me. So
Well, I think what GoToWebinar does is it records what the content is from my machine coming
ah,
your way. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed. We'll find out at the end of this session. And worst comes to worst, I can always go back and re-record the first part of it if need be. So thank you
excellent.
so much, Chris. I appreciate that. And this will be posted up on the into our video area. Actually, that's another resource that I find is that a lot of these videos are available on Alpha Software. So actually, if I go in here, and I'm going to go over to www.alphasoftware.com, and if you see right here, videos, to the videos section right here, right on the first page. So let's see if that's going to, I've got a little slow connection because of everything we're doing here. Come on. Trying to do too much. There's the video library. So we also have an online video library actually at our website here. And these weekly webinars are encoded and put up on here. So you can always search for previous ones along with a whole bunch of other videos here. Somewhat similar to that built-in video finder, but available right on the internet if you want to look at it from there. Okay, so the question is, can I use SSL with Alpha to secure my application/data for an application hosted on public internet? And the answer is yes, absolutely. Alpha allows you to use SSL certificates on the server. So just for people who are a little bit new on it, what SSL is that if we look at the universe, you have basically your clients out there that are using, mobile browsers, mobile devices, desktop browsers, etc. And there's a communication link, which is HTTP, that goes to the server. And this is where the Alpha application server is living. And so one of the cool ways that they introduced was called SSL, which allows you to secure that communication link and also, very important, make sure that you're not getting spoofed to a fake server. So the way you do it is when you'll have to, and this is probably great for a whole session, but you have to go out and purchase an SSL certificate and go through a whole process. It just takes a little while. No big deal. And there are many different companies. I've used a company called Cheap SSL. Doesn't sound that great, but it's very inexpensive. ZebraHost can also help you get set up with SSL. But basically what that does is you then have an SSL certificate, and then when the communication occurs, instead of HTTP, you're on what's called HTTPS, which will secure that communication between the client side and the server side. And it's a great question, Wayne. I really appreciate that. There's two real key reasons that's very important. One is SSL gives you first sort of a proof that you're the person they should contact, meaning that once you have that SSL, it's almost impossible for someone to spoof your service, meaning create a fake website that kind of provides the services that you do. And the other is that it provides encryption capabilities so it can secure the communication between the client and the server. So the answer is yes, and what you do is you have to first get the SSL security system set up and get the SSL certificate, and then once you have that, then on the Alpha application server, you can then go in and set that up so it uses that SSL certificate and thus allows you to encrypt that information from that standpoint there. Then the second, actually Wayne had a second question regarding also any way of securing sessions to a MAC address. And that's, I am not sure. That's something we would have to look into. I just don't have familiarity with that capability. So I'll look into that. I'll take that as a note and try and find that out, Wayne, but great questions. So again, the question was, can I use SSL with Alpha? And the answer is absolutely yes. We have that built into the capability. You have to get your own SSL certificate, and then once you also have that, then you need to obviously update your Alpha application server to reference that SSL certificate. And then let's check this out. Let's see if there's information actually in here. So I'm going to go back into my development system. I'm going to go to documentation, and let's see if there's an SSL on the topic list. Let's see, SSL. There we go. How to install a SSL server is certificate. And so this walks you through some information on how that is to do that and what you can do from there. So this will give you a quick hint on it, but what you're going to be doing is you're going to go onto the server, and then on the server you're going to point to that SSL certificate so that the server knows where to get it, and it uses that certificate when it creates communication that goes back to the mobile or there. Now, the other question may be is now, this is if you're using Alpha as a standalone server. If you're using Alpha as a plugin to IIS, my gut feels IIS handles the SSL certificate aspect. So what I was talking about was a standalone Alpha server that's using an SSL certificate. If you need to use it with IIS, which a lot more people are doing that, my gut feels the SSL is associated with the IIS setup, and then Alpha as a plugin use that from the communication links from that standpoint there. So that may, not sure, Wayne, if you're using the IIS plugin or not, but if it is, we can look into the release notes and find out if there's information about how to use SSL in that particular situation. But if you're looking for that, just go in for the Alpha standalone Alpha, go ahead and search for that subject on there, and again, it will step you through how to open up and then modify and enhance on your server. In fact, while we're at it, because that's why we're here, I'm just going to jump on my demo server here real quick. So I'm jumping, what you're seeing now is I'm remoting in to my ZebraHost server. So I have a ZebraHost server, and I'm not using SSL at this point in time. So I'm on my ZebraHost server. And Chris, is that still coming through okay?
Yes, it is.
Okay, good, good. Want to make sure there. So this just did some inserts, but nice as I use Always Up. And Always Up is available for me to, so it automatically restarts my server, but I'm going to go ahead and do this real quick. Okay, so on my app server, you'll see there's an icon here. It says server stop, but it's running in Always Up. So anyway, if I open up there, it's going to open up what's called my application server settings. And ignore the stopped. It's actually running. I just kind of opened it up. Long story, but ignore that. It's actually working fine. But you'll notice when I'm in my server settings, there's actually a tab for SSL. And in here, you can enable the SSL, and then you attach your different key files that are used for that. So there's a process that goes through to set all that up there. And again, you want to set up which server port you're using for this server here. But once you have set up this properly and put it in place for SSL, then you're good to go. And then from then on, your server is going to use SSL for its communication and give you that higher level of security and reliability in terms of your discussion or your connection to the devices out in the field. So this is where you manage all that. You have to get the SSL certificate from someone, a third party, but that's pretty straightforward. And once you're set up, you're good to go. So I'll go ahead and get out of here, go back into my presentation. And so thank you very much, Wayne. I appreciate that. Now I have an interesting question here. Good question. It's from John Eric. John Eric, thank you so much for joining us. The question is, the new MongoDB connector is great. Thank you. I agree with that. Will others be added for NoSQL? And the answer is right now, the answer is yes. We will be adding more connectors, both to industry standard NoSQL databases, but also industry standard web APIs. Mongo is kind of our first new generation of that, so that's a great example of where we're moving. The idea is to make Alpha able to use any kind of stack structure that you want to achieve your goals. And for people who are kind of new, what MongoDB is, and people who may not be familiar with that, is MongoDB is what's called a NoSQL database. So it is a database, but really it just stores what are called key value pairs, which is really a key and then a value, which is really some JSON. And it's a much more modern technique for building systems because it can actually dramatically reduce the amount of time it takes to produce systems, because you can store data as JSON into a MongoDB and then that whole JSON could be a whole class, say an employee record or something like that. And so instead of building out a whole relational database and then encoding that, you can actually just create class records and store it as JSON in what's called a MongoDB or in a NoSQL database. So what Alpha really wants to do is that more and more developers are using that technique because they can build their solutions very quickly, and they're very flexible in nature, meaning that you can rapidly change them without having to change your whole relational database. But one thing that's really cool about this is that one of the features of Alpha is that it's actually going to allow you to kind of treat a NoSQL database like a SQL database. So you can still kind of use your own skill sets and capabilities from that standpoint to do that. So the answer, long-winded, is that it's we appreciate your vote of confidence, and there will be other ones coming down. I think CouchDB, a few others. There's no specific release date on that, but please, if you have interest of that, send it in to guides@Alpha Software so we can get it to the development team so they can start understanding what are the kind of things coming down the road in terms of what people are interested in terms of connection. And you're going to see as we progress through the year, more and more sort of third-party APIs, third-party systems like Mongo being able to be added and accessed through Alpha, especially in the web API area. So we're very, very excited about that, and we hope there. As far as AngularJS, that's a very good question. That was a secondary question from John Eric, is that AngularJS. And for people who aren't familiar with AngularJS, it's a new framework that's available. It's released, I believe Google is the primary appearance, but everything is done in JavaScript. And so the world is moving more and more JavaScript, thus why Alpha is starting to support Node.js. But much like Bootstrap and now Angular, they're frameworks for developing websites. They give you really nice, it really presents it very nicely, plus gives you a lot of dynamics so it can make really nice one-page web apps and things like that. Right now we don't have any current plans that I'm aware of, and this is myself, to support Angular as kind of a default capability. There is a lot of work being done in the Bootstrap area since there's a lot of existing content out there available for Bootstrap. Angular is a little newer to the market, but obviously very, very powerful. So we're keeping an eye on that. No, again, I don't have any specific items. There's nothing to say that you couldn't integrate Angular with Alpha. It would just be a matter of your working through the process of how to do that. So there's nothing that precludes the two working together. But what I think you'll see is because Alpha is moving more and more towards Node.js and we're doing a lot more pieces there, you're going to see a lot more support for those kind of pieces there. And then also any plans to connect to Firebase. That's a really good one. Firebase, for people who are not familiar with Firebase, it's actually a very popular database system that's really kind of more European. I think it comes out of the European market. I've heard a lot of it. I haven't personally worked with it. Let me go in here and go to Firebase. Let me see if I can look it up here. Okay, yep. So if you're interested in finding out more about Firebase, you can go to firebase.com, and you'll see in here a demonstration of what it does. And what's really cool about Firebase is that it does have a lot of really new kind of modern features. So to answer your question is that no, I don't know of any specific, but my guess is since we have a very large contingent of European and developers, and definitely Alpha is keeping an eye on that, I would anticipate down the road at some point will encompass the Firebase capabilities. No plans at this point. Again, this is Dean McCormick speaking, not on behalf of the Alpha guys, but they're looking at those key technologies, and Mongo just happens to be very, very popular out there, especially with people who are using like Rails and other systems like that. So there's a lot of talent out there using that. But I do know this is very, very popular, and it's something that I'll forward personally to the team, letting them know about it. But the cool thing about this is that as we add these new features for Mongo and the web services, your skill sets will be reusable. So what Alpha is really trying to do, and I appreciate these questions, John Eric, is that Alpha is trying to make sure that you can go from a SQL to a NoSQL to a Firebase to a web API, and you don't have to learn a whole new set of skills. Is that Alpha will kind of encompass the kind of complexity of interacting with that database and making it easy, and also using your existing skill sets. So that's one of the tricks, is we not only make a connection to it, but we also try to make it easy. Like for instance with MongoDB, what we can do is you can actually use a SQL-like syntax to query MongoDB, even though that's really not built into MongoDB. That's something that Alpha is doing to help the developer. So that's a real good question. What I will do is I'll go ahead and take the ball with that with Firebase and ask that to our team and see if that's on our roadmap or if they're even envisioning it. But I do hear incredibly great things about Firebase, very exciting stuff, and I appreciate your input. I'm curious, if you don't mind, have you actually developed anything with Firebase, and what do you see as the major advantage of using Firebase over, say, a MySQL, MariaDB, or one of the traditional ones? If you don't mind just putting that into my question, that would be cool, because I'm always interested and curious about these kind of questions. So I know that didn't answer your question exactly. The answer is I don't know, but we'll look into it and find out from that standpoint. And then also Wayne had a follow-up one. He said, I'm guessing this is easier with IIS rather than AA server. I'm not sure. I haven't done that myself. My guess is that there's an enormous amount of tutorials for adding SSL to IIS, so I'm sure there's a huge amount of existing support, but it really isn't that difficult to add it to a standalone standalone Alpha app server. So if you come across you'll probably take you about an hour or so once you have the certificate to get it set up, maybe, and again, not really that difficult. Basically what it is you go through a process of letting the SSL company, the people who issues the certificate, of what specific machine you're on, they give you the certificate, and then you just have to put those securities. So probably about the same amount of time, but you'll find probably a few more help functions out there, or help articles about IIS, just because of the way it is. But it depends. You can use it in either scenario and be able to handle it from there. So great question. Okay, let's see. There was a follow-on question from Vaughn. Thank you very much, Vaughn. It said, did you say the MongoDB is available now? It is in the Alpha pre-release, so it is a pre-release function that has been offered. So there was a set of videos that came out last week. It is, again, definitely pre-release, not to be used for production purposes, but you can download a pre-release and play with it and start experimenting with it and get kind of up to speed on how to use MongoDB with Alpha, so feel free. It's not part of the official release yet. That's still targeted towards the end of this quarter, is a lot of these more current features in terms of wrapping the SOAP services and MongoDB and other pieces are going to be out officially. But feel free, the pre-releases are available. If you need a pre-release, all you have to do is go into the Alpha development environment, go to Help, go download patches. I believe it's download patches. And you'll notice when I go here that this will show us all of our regular patches. Let's see. Where is it? Nope, I don't think we have. Yeah, this is not the pre-release. Let's see if there's something on the pre-release here. Check view release notes. Okay. Yeah, that's for the official. All you have to do, by the way, is if you search for Alpha 5 V12 pre-release, it's going to find the pre-release notes for Alpha Anywhere. And in here, it gives you what the current version is, the date and time it was released, and then in here are the actual downloads, either the full patch or the full download. Also, remember, you need to have your development environment and your server in sync. Here's a lot of information on IIS, and then there's extensive kind of release notes that go in here that talk about that. And so let me see if they've added. Yep. So if you'll notice that I actually searched on here for MongoDB, so on this pre-release notes page, you'll see that these videos are available to kind of walk you through how to do it, and from that standpoint. And you can go ahead and start experimenting and looking on that. But again, the way I find it is I just do Alpha 5 V12 pre-release, and when you do that, it will show up on Google, and you can click that as a download. It looks like it's downloads.alphasoftware.com, blah, 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 blah. Easier to find off Google. That's the best way to handle it from that standpoint there. Cool. Okay, let's go there. MongoDB, how much does it cost? That's a really good question, Robert. Let's go ahead and do this. Let's go here. Mongo. I think they have a free, I think the deal is that I think it is open source software. So I think it is actually, you can download like the open source one for free, and then much like Red Hat and those things like that, you can then download, they have their then paid version. So there's sort of the open source version that's free, and then there's the paid version which then gives you support and other pieces like that. But I'm almost 99% sure that MongoDB is, as you can see, they got a bunch of sound. Let's see. Let's just go MongoDB open source. Okay. So you'll see, yeah, okay. So, its Mongo release is open source using the new AGPL v3.0. But if you want to, so you can download that for free, but if you want to, you can actually look at their paid version, which are commercial licenses. So the cool thing is you can download it, start playing with it, get familiar with it for free, and it's not going to cost you anything as far as you go. So that's how much it costs there. Oh, good. Interesting. Thank you. John Eric kind of got back to me on that. He says, Firebase is now owned by Google. And the question is, what is not owned by Google or Oracle? Firebase is a Mongo Node SSL real-time push, all combined for $5 per database. So apparently it's beyond just a NoSQL database, but it's a whole bunch of other things that are built into it that is available for $5 a month per DB, which again is great. So to learn more, you just go to Firebase. I think they have a lot of nice feature videos and things like that. I'm going to have to be checking that out. But in the meantime, John, I'll ask the team what their thinking is and what they're thinking about Firebase. I'm not sure how many alpha clients have been asking for it. Some of our bigger enterprise companies have been asking about Mongo since it's been around for a long time and it's very, very popular, but very cool. But also, oh, I see, it works offline. That's pretty neat. So if anything, man, maybe cool stuff. Actually, one of the cool things about Alpha is that down the road they're planning on introducing support for SQLite, for PhoneGap apps, for more robust offline application capabilities. Maybe Firebase may be down the road on that also too. I'll have to find out. But thanks for bringing that up, and also thanks for follow up. And again, my question was, what makes it special? Well, it's Mongo. It's got Node. It's owned by Google, so it's heavily supported. It's SSL and real-time push, so therefore it's doing pushing of data out to the outside world, all for $5 a month. So take some time, check it out. Again, no built-in support at this point for Alpha, but who knows? I'm sure it's on the radar of these guys, especially Dan Bricklin is looking at the marketplace, looking at the environment, and always picking up new stuff from there. Oh, Vaughn had a question about the videos. Again, if you go to the pre-release notes page and search for, where'd it go? Mongo. Search for Mongo, you'll see working with MongoDB using Alpha DAO, an Alpha DAO object. Real fun, even if you're not planning on using Mongo right now, take the time, go watch those videos. And here's the reason why I say that, is that this is kind of the precursor to all the future kind of API integrations, meaning the philosophy that's going into the integration with Mongo in terms of making it easy where you don't have to write your own code, and also more importantly allowing you to use your current skill set, your current capabilities to interface with it, is demonstrated in these videos. So it's really worth your while. These videos are very short, usually 5 minutes or so, and then you'll get a feel for what's coming down the road and how the team is going to approach it. And then I'll do some search on that with John and the team on that. Looks very interesting from that standpoint. And hey, $5 a month sounds like pretty reasonable way of going from there. Okay, so those are kind of questions on Mongo. I had one other follow-up question with Wayne. Let's check our time. excuse me there. Okay, we got about 10 minutes, perfect. Any other questions? Please put your questions in the Q&A section here. The question that came in from Wayne was this: is there a way of integrating with Outlook? For example, I want to create calendar entries and reminders directly into Outlook from an Alpha application. I'm guessing these would be output of VCS file. Yes, that is definitely possible. You can output a VCS file that's available from that standpoint. But there may be a little bit better ways to integrate with Outlook. Now, I definitely know that with Exchange Server, like my question would be, is this, and you can maybe give a, is this more of a desktop app where you have the Alpha solution running as a desktop app next to Outlook, or is this a web-oriented app where you want to do some integration with Outlook? And I may have to do a little bit more research on it, but if you're going to use the website, there are definitely APIs that are available for Outlook that allow you to insert items into Exchange, which would then show up in an Outlook instance, whether it's web Outlook or if it's a desktop version of Outlook. Your interface point may be the Exchange server that has that information there that's available from that standpoint. And I'll probably have to do a little more research on that. If it's a database where it's there, I'm not, okay, so that, gotcha. This is a desktop app hosted on the public internet. So that's a good question. I'm not sure. I'm thinking, off the top of my head, having the ability to create a VCS and then open it is probably your quick and dirty and very solid way of integrating those two solutions. Because if you're, I don't know how many actual direct interfaces Alpha has done from a desktop standpoint into the Outlook sort of program running on the local machine. There's a lot of intricacies that go along with that there. So I'd say just off the top of my head, I think you've got a good solution there of generating the VCS file and then opening that up. Then Outlook will grab that and insert that information into its data store. But I can do a little more research on that. I'll look that up and see if there's any more elegant ways in terms of interfacing Alpha solutions with a Outlook kind of environment there. I have noted that more and more of the work is going towards obviously web environments, meaning that supporting Exchange or hosted Exchange or even Office 365. More and more people are moving that direction. Even though they're using the desktop applications, they tend to be starting to use these subscription services. And through that, it makes it pretty easy to then do integrations with those services from that standpoint. So didn't have an exam, so I'll do a little bit more research on there, but excellent questions today and really good feedback. I really appreciate the team. Any other questions? I don't see any new ones on our list here. I'll wait for a minute or two. But again, great stuff. I really appreciate everybody taking the time today to spend with us. And the questions always are helpful for us. I'll feed this information over to our development team so they can make sure that Firebase is on there from that standpoint. It says, do you have any tutorials for Alpha and CSS? Your best bet for that is the following, is that if you actually go back into the Alpha environment here, and I'm going to go back into the Alpha, and if you go, the primary tool for integrating CSS is the Web Style Builder. So if we go into the development environment and go to the More drop-down button here, and you'll notice here it says Open Web Style Builder, and if I click on that button, you're going to notice that it's opening up my Web Style Builder, and right here we have Watch Videos. And if you click on there, there are some very specific videos on how to use the Web Style Builder to integrate CSS into your application, meaning to modify the controls to use different CSS. Now, I do want to give you a heads up is that there's a number of different initiatives that are in the works to really improve this area, and we'll start seeing those later on this year. In regards to making it easier to integrate CSS. For instance, there's some new CSS styles that are coming out very soon that with the next release that will help improve the look and feel, give it a more modern feel, and also the ability to use Sass and some other newer CSS technologies. But in the near term, to find out more about how CSS integrates with Alpha, you can do the watch videos here. And again, where I found that is that I was on my Web Projects control panel. I went to More, Open Web Style Builder. I'm sorry, yep. And then when it got to the Open Web Style Builder, I have Watch Videos, and if you click on here, it opens up the page that has all those videos. So let's go here and type in style, and so project styles and how to use all those pieces are all in here. Let me find some other ones here. Just talks about CSS and pieces from there. So that's going to give you some pointers on how to use the CSS with Alpha. And really cool is a lot of really great work. Actually, I've also been hearing about some third parties that are starting to create better Bootstrap templates. That's kind of where I was coming at, John, in terms of the, sorry, I don't mean to screw up your name, but let's see, John Eric. We are looking at making it easier and easier to include CSS styles. That's been one of the biggest kind of requests because people really are looking to improve the look and feel of theirs. So there's some exciting stuff coming down the road near term with off-the-shelf styles from third parties, but also Alpha in and of itself is working very diligently to make it easier to use more modern CSS to make your apps look the best and really bring them up to date in terms of a look and feel and capability from that stance there. So that's great. I want to say thank you very much. I think at this point we'll go ahead and wrap it up for the week. My name is Dan McCormick. I want to say first thank you to everybody who helped attend today. I also like to say thank you very much to Chris Martin, who joined us as an organizer. You'll be hearing more about Chris. He'll be helping us out with more presentations in the near future. As noted, we'll make sure we double check our recording from today, make sure it works okay. I will go ahead and forward, we'll be placing that onto our video library. So in a couple days it will be available up there for review in case you would like to watch it. Plus remember, we have all of our previous weekly webinars, except for last week, that are available for you to peruse, and there's a lot of really good content on that. And all that content, by the way, is going to be included into the upcoming help site, because you never know, there are certain things we cover in the weekly webinar that can help people in terms of addressing and getting over humps with their system. But I want to say thank you, everybody. You have a fabulous week. Get those questions into guides@alphasoftware.com, whether questions or requests saying, hey, it'd be great to have a webinar that talked about XYZ. Chris, Dave, and I are working heavily on our rest of your calendar. We have some really cool webinars that are being put together that will be delivered that will have a lot of great content for you, and we'll be letting you know more about that as we go to it. And as Alpha gets closer and closer to releasing the next version, we're going to be obviously including in there some great webinars to go over the new features and capabilities and kind of do deep dives from those pieces there. So you guys have a great week. Thank you so much. And as always, thank you. Keep developing and let us know what you're doing. Build beautiful things and share it with us so we can show the world what great things can be developed with Alpha.